There are a lot of people who vlog and make short films on YouTube, but arguably none of them are quite as well known as Casey Neistat. If you've clicked on this video, you most likely know who Casey is, but if you're somehow unaware, he's a pretty big deal in the world of YouTube and filmmaking.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I've been making videos since I was a kid, but at the start of this year, I decided I actually wanted to get good at it. And coincidentally, also at the start of this year, Casey released a class online on his method when it comes to filmmaking and storytelling. So I took it. And in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 things I've learned, both from taking that class, but also just from watching Casey's videos in general. So without further ado, here's lesson number 1. Don't be a perfectionist. Something that I'm convinced that every creative person experiences is that inner critical voice. And to a degree, it's good that we have this because it can help us to refine the things we're doing and make them better. But the problem is when this voice becomes too dominant to the point where rather than helping us to make things better, it actually stops us from making anything at all. You're taking shot after shot after shot, and rather than seeing the good points, you're just seeing all the negatives. Like the lighting's a bit off here, I don't like the way this person's framed, etc. You only have to watch a few Casey Neistat videos before you start to notice how many, and I'm doing air quotes, bad clips he will use in his videos. He doesn't always go out the way to use the very best camera, he just uses what he has to hand at times. There's camera shaking, the audio is sometimes a bit rough, and there's even some clips, even in his most latest videos, where there's clearly, he's forgotten to clean either his lens or his ND filter, so there's visible dirt and dust on the actual footage. I mean, maybe it's a stylistic thing, but it doesn't seem that way. I genuinely think he's just out there having fun filming stuff, and then when he comes to the edit and he notices these imperfections, he just thinks, you know, like, I'm gonna put it in anyway. And the reason that he's comfortable doing this is because he understands that the story he's telling far outweighs any small imperfections that may be present in the footage. And looking at his view count, it would seem that the internet also agrees. So when it comes to making videos on YouTube, take a leaf out of Casey's book and allow yourself to not be perfect. You'll feel so much more free to create things if you don't put that pressure on yourself, if you take your focus off of perfection and refocus on the second thing that Casey is really good at, which is lesson number 2, relatable storytelling. Casey's videos are extremely watchable. The 10 minutes that they usually take flies by and you usually end up wanting to watch another afterwards. And yet there's very little spectacle with what Casey does. In 2022, we're used to the Mr. Beast style of content creation. Everything is really big and loud, larger than life. And I suppose the benefit of that kind of content is that it does get people's attention. But then we have this guy who can make a video titled something like "A Problem in the Shower," and it still gets 1.5 million views. What's going on there? Something that Casey puts massive emphasis on, both in his film school course and also when he's talking about filmmaking in his YouTube videos, is telling stories. And not just telling stories, but finding a way to put them across that is intriguing and genuine. Finding that human element is what makes Casey's videos so watchable. That, combined with the fact that he doesn't force things to fit a preconceived mold or an idea that he's had in his head. Often he'll start out thinking that he's filming a video about one thing, but then when things take a turn, he doesn't try and bring things back to his own narrative. He lets the story unfold in front of him and just lets it happen naturally. Basically put, he lets the story tell itself, and the end product, the video that we watch, is something that's relatable and authentic. The lesson here is don't feel like you've got to start making videos with these big, extreme, huge themes. At best, all that's going to do is generate a lot of views, but in turn, along with it, an audience that doesn't really care about you and the things that you're saying. They're there for the spectacle. They're there to be wowed, not because you've generated any personal connection with them through the film you've made. So instead, focus on telling human stories in an authentic and relatable way. A great way that you can start doing this is by implementing the third thing that I learned from Casey Neistat through watching his videos in the school. And honestly, I feel like this is probably the big secret, and that is to make movies, not videos. What on earth does that mean? Are movies and videos not the same thing? Well, yes and no. All movies are videos, but not all videos are movies. And something that I've noticed that Casey does when he's talking both in his film class and on his YouTube channel is that he refers to his YouTube videos as movies or films. Here lies one of the greatest secrets to Casey's success as a filmmaker. His mindset that he's not just making a video, he's making a movie. This outlook changes the way he films things and also changes the way he then structures that footage to tell a story in the edit. Like a movie, most of Casey's videos have a very clear narrative. There is always a beginning, a middle, and an end, or in other words, a setup, conflict resolution, and then a conclusion. Because he makes his videos this way, his viewers don't feel like they're just watching another typical YouTube video. Instead, they're with Casey along for the ride in whatever story it is he's telling, and that is so powerful when it comes to filmmaking. Don't just make videos, make movies. If that doesn't get you fired up to do something creative, I don't even know how you've made it this far into the video. I had a great time making the 2 films that made up the syllabus for the course, and my favorite one is the video that's on the screen right now. It should give you a pretty good idea of the sorts of films that I want to make on this channel. So if you enjoy it, consider subscribing.